I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
It's another week. I'm Tyler Shore still. It's Midday Muscle. Let's go. Well, I guess the old saying of not throwing rocks at the throne is out the window, because for one reason or another, it seems like there's been a lot of rocks being thrown Hadi Choopan's way as of late. A few weeks ago, Brandon Curry came out and said that he thought Hadi was more beatable than Ramy, which was definitely a jab at Hadi, even though there were some people who felt otherwise. And now last week we heard Nick Walker say on a podcast that he doesn't think Hadi will repeat as champ this year, which had to make its way back to Hadi because there's no way a message like that from your peers doesn't travel. Now, whether or not Hadi has enough of an ego to let this bother him is something we just don't have an answer to right now. But if he's using this as fuel, there are going to be a lot of people with hurt feelings come November. On a show last week, we touched on Hunter Labrada starting his first prep of the season and what his potential plans might look like. And shortly thereafter, we started to hear some buzz about a potential showdown at the Chicago Pro between him and Blessing Awodibu. And as we know, the Boogeyman's had Chicago marked as the debut for his 2023 contest season for the better part of the last few months. Depending on what happens when he competes at the Texas Pro, that matchup is definitely one that could be intriguing to watch, because the prospect of seeing those two go head-to-head on stage in a high-stakes event like this is something that we don't get all that often at most of these regular season events. When you take into consideration they'll both be searching for Olympia bids because of the new qualification system, it could end up turning this show into one of the most important events of the summer. Now, the idea of Hunter competing at the Chicago Pro is purely hypothetical at this point, but it's been confirmed that he is planning to bring his talents to the Texas Pro, which would set up an even bigger showdown between him and Andrew Jacked. And Andrew's looking to come back and defend his title from last year. As we all saw at the Arnold Classic back in March, 2023 Andrew is a completely different animal than the guy who won the Texas Pro last year. And that's a tall order for anyone in bodybuilding to handle right now, including someone who has a track record that's as strong as Hunter's. But if he ends up besting Andrew here, that might just set the stage for him to continue that moment throughout the summer, which should put him firmly back into the running to be a top 4 Olympia contender again. There seems to be a lot of people looking at the 212 division at the New York Pro as a place where we could see our first major shakeup of the season, which very well might end up being the case, because that show never fails to deliver the headlines. But it might also be worth keeping an eye on what happens at the Muscle Contest Brazil, which is scheduled to take place right around the same time too, because rumor has it, Lucas Coelho might be looking to make that the jumping point of his 2023 season. This is far and away the best that Lucas has ever looked 3 or 4 weeks out from a show at any point in his career, which is really saying something when you consider that we're talking about a guy who has a couple of wins under his belt. And if he earns a win here, it won't be surprising if he ends up ripping off a few in a row before the end of the summer. And here we are at the end of another Midday Muscle. I'm your boy Tyler, RxMuscle. See you tomorrow.